Hello, welcome back. It's Rapid Regeneration. I'm David Escamilla. I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving any medical advice, making any claims about diseases, or making medical claims. This is brought to you by rapidregeneration.com. The mission of this whole program is to help you to alkalize your body, to activate your own self-healing process, and to reverse degeneration, over-acidity, breakdown of the body, and just bad problems, and basically get yourself to a state of functional well-being where you feel good all the time, energized, and in good health. That's what I experienced for myself after I got really, really ill and felt terrible for 4 years. I figured out these ways to reverse all that, and now I'm bringing that to you here, and that's my mission now in life. So we've talked about cleansing, we've talked about herbal supplements, we've talked about the mindset, we've talked about what foods are the best and why, and basically what you're up against in terms of this world that we live in, excuse me, and the mindset that you need to basically be the new you, and to be a version of yourself that's healthy, that engages in a healthy lifestyle. So now I'm going to break down the mechanics of how do you do it, how to transition. So by now, I hope that you've made a decision that you're going to get yourself healthier, you're going to get yourself in a more healthy lifestyle, and that you've taken complete responsibility for doing this. But because trust me, wanting to do something, deciding to do something, taking responsibility for doing something is miles away from actually doing it. And it's in the implementation of a new program where so many people fall short, they fail, they give up, and basically I'm going to help you to avoid that. I'm going to help you to do it successfully and avoid some of these stumbling blocks, some of the mistakes that I made, and so forth. So the short answer on how to transition, and what we're talking about, is transitioning from a diet that is very acidic forming to the body into a diet that is more alkaline forming to the body. And basically, this more alkaline way of eating comes from eating more raw foods, which is going to be your fruits, vegetables, and then of course maybe you have some nuts and seeds and stuff like that. So that's what we're talking about. Transitioning is basically fitting more alkaline forming foods into your life. Now the question of how to do it is, the short answer is slowly but surely. Now you can take that data and run with it, but I'm going to dig into a little more insight of kind of what that means. So going back, and this is going back a while because it was in like fall of 2015 that I really started to add some more healthy foods into my diet, because I felt like doing that. And basically as a result of the cleansing, doing the full total body cleansing that are covered in the early segments, you should feel a change of cravings, and you should feel a boost of your life force and a desire to eat more healthy foods. So as this was happening, after that, I was getting more into healthier foods, and especially fruit. And when this started, I really had no end game in mind. I certainly never thought I would end up doing totally raw or 80% raw or anything like that, or plant-based. I had no agenda. You know, I was basically just digging what the raw was doing for me and the results that I was getting from that. And so in the beginning, basically, this is what I recommend, is simply just adding in, supplementing your day with fruit, adding fruit into your day. And so let's say, now you could say that this is sort of a meal replacement strategy. It's actually kind of a meal delayment strategy, because let's say if you normally eat breakfast at 9 a.m. Well, let's say you normally have, you know, eggs and toast for breakfast. So instead of having eggs and toast at 9 a.m., now what I want you to do is have a smoothie with fruit, or a big bowl of fruit. Okay, so for breakfast. Now what's going to happen is you're going to be cleansed and energized by this meal at 9 a.m. and then basically by 10 or 10:30 or 11 you're going to be hungry again. So then you can go ahead and have your regular breakfast of your eggs and toast or whatever. And now, so this is basically the strategy of adding in more fruit into your day. Now basically make sure that you eat the fruit by itself when you're doing this. Okay, don't mix the fruit with other kinds of food. Don't put yogurt in your smoothie. Don't put you know, almond milk in your smoothie or protein powder. Don't eat your fruit with nut butter. At least not. Okay, this is what I'm trying to say, is when you're doing this, eat the fruit by itself. This is really gonna help you absorb the true power of that fruit. And I don't want to get too advanced too early, because this is going to be covered in more detail in a later segment called Essential Knowledge for Proper Food Combining, because it is important to combine your food. But again, I don't want to get too advanced, but the point is, eat the fruit by itself, and you maybe delay your regular meal in order to eat that fruit. Another example of this might be to have an afternoon snack. Have another bowl of fruit. You know, eat a melon. You know, eat a bowl of grapes. Eat a bowl of pears. Eat some oranges. I mean, there's so many delicious options. And to be honest, when you're early on, fruit is more like a snack food anyways. So don't treat it like a whole meal. Just treat it like a snack. Either it's a proper snack, or you're delaying a meal to have fruit instead, and you're just going to eat that meal let's say 90 minutes later or 2 hours later. So that's the whole strategy in the beginning. It's meal delayment. Now you might find through this process that you do end up replacing a meal. So like for me early on, I would probably eat, you know, the fruit would end up replacing a meal. Like maybe I ended up just skipping breakfast and then I just waited till lunch. Or maybe for lunch, if I had a regular breakfast of eggs and whatever, then instead of having my regular lunch, which would have been like chicken tacos, instead I would have like a big bowl of guacamole, maybe some olives, and maybe some like chips, you know, tortilla chips and salsa. And so now that's not really a totally raw meal, but it is a mostly raw meal. And then that would have replaced my lunch. And then I wouldn't eat again till dinner. And then I would have whatever regular cooked meals for dinner. So and then maybe I would have a snack in the afternoon of fruit. So in a way, it's meal delaying, but it's also meal replacement if you feel up to that. Because instead of eating 3 cooked meals a day, I would eat 2 cooked and 1 mostly raw, plus a snack of fruit, you know. So you're just trying to infiltrate yourself with more fruit and more raw foods. Okay, so, and again, going back to why are we using the raw foods? What's the point of this? Guys, if there was another food that we could do this with instead, we would be using that food, okay? If you could alkalize your body and energize your body, give it electrical energy, give it massive nutrition, antioxidants, and create alkaline chemistry, eating pasta, then this would be about how to transition to just eating pasta as much as possible. Okay, I didn't come up with this. It's not like I just love fruit and raw food, so that's why I'm pitching it. It's the chemistry. It's literally the way the chemistry works. And so that's why I'm trying to get you to figure out how to eat things that are going to alkalize your body. You know, if you have a problem you're trying to solve with your body, you're trying to go to the next level, then you need to alkalize it. And so again, it goes back to your meal delayment and your meal replacement. Now, basically, okay, so it's basically important to consider your bulkier, heavier, fattier raw foods when you're doing meal replacement at this point, because, you know, throughout our lives we're eating diets that are very heavy in fats and protein. When you move to more raw foods and you're starting eating a lot of fruits, I mean, fruits are basically mostly simple sugars, and they're high in carbs, but they're mostly low in fat and protein. So you'll start to get these cravings, most likely, that are very intense for fat and protein. So just don't burn yourself out. And basically, the solution to this problem is to basically give yourself into that craving, you know, but just feed yourself raw foods that are high in fat and or protein. So this is things like avocado, olives, coconut and coconut products, and like your nuts and seeds. And so there's nothing wrong with that. And this is all about balance. Okay, in the early days when I was doing this, I was still letting myself indulge in the kinds of cooked foods I wanted. I would still hit the drive-thru sometimes. I mean, I would still eat cookies and ice cream. I mean, I would still eat bad stuff. You know, I was transitioning from eating like really bad food, and I'm just trying to say that the point of this is, as you're going through this, it's going slowly. You're going slowly but surely. Okay, because you can go too fast. You can strip out your gears if you go too fast. Like, for example, let's say if you're like, I'm just going to eat nothing but fruits. So, you know, basically, let's say you do great all morning, you do great all afternoon, then by 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening, you start to get this like overwhelming craving, and it's coming in so hard, and you're like, I give up. And then you're going through the drive-thru and you're piling that seat high with all bunch of bad stuff you know you shouldn't eat. So it would be better if you simply said, all right, I'm going to do great all morning, and I'm going to have a late lunch, and I'm going to indulge. You know, I'm going to eat cooked vegetables. I'm going to eat chicken tacos. Okay, and I'm going to indulge myself, and I'm going to it's all going to be organic and whole foods and stuff like that. Okay, this would be way better than going and getting double bacon cheeseburgers and fried chicken and everything else later. So basically you want to balance yourself out. You want to balance yourself out. And this is part of the this is also goes back to foods to consider avoiding. Okay, basically, I know there's a lot of information that's going on here, and some of this might feel kind of hectic, like, oh my gosh, there's all this stuff going on. Yes, because you're factoring in adding in more foods. You're also delaying the way you would normally eat. And you're also, by the way, you want to target in on the non-fruit meals. And this goes back to the chapter we talked about top foods to avoid, is when you are going to not eat raw, you want to make sure that you're avoiding the worst kind of cooked foods. And that, yeah, instead of getting something from fast food place, you're going to make your own. You're going to use organic meat if you're eating meat. You're going to use whole wheat or whole grain bread or tortillas instead of white flour with all the artificial chemicals and all the junk in it. So this is all going to happen at the same time. This is all part of the transition. Yes, you want to add in more raw. You want to add in more fruit. At the same time, you want to target what are basically what are some things you can change about the non-raw meals. Okay, what things should be eliminated entirely? Like maybe you're drinking soda, or other drinks that have to go, you know, or maybe there's foods with a ton of chemicals that you should just have to get rid of. And what other foods could be just substituted pretty easily? Like, for example, you're buying the whole, you're buying an alternative product without the chemicals in it compared with the product with all the chemicals, or you can start buying the organic version rather than the GMO version. And then what foods simply just need to go and need to be cut out, or you need like a plant-based workaround or a whole food workaround, like maybe white flour, maybe dairy products. You need to switch to like coconut milk, get off of cow milk. And so basically you're going to do this too. You're going to target all of the cooked foods you're eating, and basically make this simpler, healthier, more whole food based, while at the same time you're adding in more raw foods into your day. So this is all going to happen at the same time. You should feel massive improvement from this and boost in energy, but also you're doing this in a way that is not too difficult. Okay, you should still be, if you go from eating bad stuff from Taco Bell to making your own quesadilla or your own burrito at home using organic whole food type ingredients, it's still going to be filling, it's still going to be satiating, it's still going to be pleasurable. You're still going to basically satisfy that craving that you're having, but you're giving your body a break from all the chemicals, the hormones, the antibiotics, just the terrible stuff that's in these foods. So you're doing that. Okay, now at the same time you're working in more fruit throughout your day. You're delaying a meal, you're having it as a snack, and then you're going to try to swap out a meal for a fully raw meal. So all this is happening at the same time, but it's happening in a way where basically it's not difficult. And when I went through this, just to let you know, there was no rules. I didn't feel like I was on a diet. I was following my authentic urges. And sometimes I would still give in and I would still indulge in junk foods. So this is all the things that are going on. And by the way, the cleansing helps so much with this because it really does help with the cravings. digestion and everything else. So it's not about 100% perfection. You know, and basically when it comes to the foods, the cooked foods you're going to eat, I do have a list of kind of food products that are kind of cheat foods. If you are looking for foods that are, you know, the least unhealthy to cheat with, just go to rapidregeneration.com/cheat-foods. Okay, so you've added in the fruit. You've avoided the top ingredients to avoid. You're eating more healthily, even though you're still eating kind of the same stuff with your cooked meals. And maybe you're delaying some of that. Okay, now you want to, and I apologize because I did a little bit of this out of order, because when you're talking about replacing a regular meal with a raw meal or mostly raw meal, I touched on that earlier, but basically want to get more into what that looks like. So basically, you want to look at things like a big bowl of guacamole is good, a big bowl of olives, salsa, pico de gallo. You can put all that into a big salad. You can cut up some cucumber slices, eat it like that. You know, when I was going through this, my big go-to was chips, corn chips. And I would make a meal out of chips with guacamole and maybe some olives and salsa. You know, and basically, trust me, if you eat enough of this, it's very filling. It's not an appetizer. You know, it will fill you up for 4 or 5 hours. And this would end up replacing a meal. So where I would normally eat like chicken or fish or steak, you know, maybe tacos or whatever, instead I would just have this. You can also do things like your nut butters. You know, I used to eat, you know, almond butter with bananas or whatever, strawberries, or put it on tortillas. Now, this is not great food combinations, but again, don't worry so much right now about food combining. I mean, your nuts and your seeds are very filling. You know, I would sometimes crush them up, put them in a bowl with like some almond milk and eat it like oatmeal. So again, this goes back to you're satisfying your craving for fat and or protein. Don't try to fight, you know, what you've become over a lifetime of eating high fat and high protein. Now, when you get to higher levels, you know, you can not eat as much fat and protein, you know, but don't worry about that now. Don't try to fight the beast, you know, roll with it and just roll more into the raw. So basically, you're gonna replace a meal with a cooked food meal with a raw food meal or a mostly raw meal. You know, so that's something that you can do. Now, and trust me, you'll start to feel a big difference. Going from 3 cooked meals a day to 2 cooked meals a day and 1 mostly raw or raw meal a day, man, it's just huge. It's a huge difference. And there's still no strict rules at this point. You know, I'm not saying don't eat meat or fish or eggs or anything. There's no rules like that. All you're doing is you're turning up the raw dial. You're eating healthier in the cooked stuff you are eating. And what happened with me is the more I was eating raw foods, I wanted more and more of them. You know, I could literally just feel this cleansing sensation sweep over my whole body from my head to my toes. And this was powerful. This was a high that was better than any drug. And also at the time, it's true that I was very motivated because I desperately wanted to solve my health problems. Yeah, I was just in a rough spot. And so every time that I ate raw like this, I really could literally physically feel like I was making significant progress towards recovery and solving my problems. So basically, I transitioned. It took me about 6 months to transition off of eating kind of the worst kind of foods. It took me about 6 months, yeah. And after about 6 months, I was eating a lot of raw foods. I was still eating a lot of cooked foods. I was still eating a lot of like cooked starches, corn chips, and your starches and kind of your grains and stuff like that. And it took me another 2 years before I finally kind of got rid of that habit, that's very acidic forming habit of the grains and the starches. So that's how long it took me. It took me about 2.5 years where I finally got to the point where I was eating, basically at that point, I finally figured out how to eat fully raw. I ate fully raw for like another 6 months to a year, and that's basically how long it took. 2.5 years of transitioning, well, 6 months of intense transitioning, another 2 years of still transitioning to get kind of the final cooked stuff out, and then after another 6 months or a year of doing fully raw, after that, I was totally recovered. I mean, I felt like my old self. All the symptoms that I had, the brain fog, the low energy, the pain, the inflammation, the headaches, not feeling like myself, all that was gone. And I felt like my old self, and I finally had my mojo back. Well, I mean, that was, so you could say it took a long time and everything. But basically, that was the whole transition. That was how to transition, how I transitioned. And it was totally worth it. Now, that was in early 2019. I considered myself fully recovered. So now, I mean, basically 4 years later, I've continued. I mean, and things have been easy. And I've continued to elevate and figure out other things I could do for high performance in terms of eating, and I approach fats and proteins differently, and I'm less concerned now about the chemistry of what I'm eating as I am with the energy it's going to give me. And so, this is a whole another program about what to do next after you've transitioned and you've solved your problems. But basically, just wanted to give you an idea there. So lastly, mistakes that I made. Gosh, I'd like to think if I could go back, knowing what I know now, that I could transition, and I mean, I could have solved all my problems maybe within 18 months. Instead it took me 3.5 years. So that's the point. That's why I really believe in the value that I'm bringing to you, because I do have more wisdom, and I have all this hindsight and all this knowledge that I didn't have when I was just desperate and just trying to figure it out for myself to solve my problems. I mean, I definitely would have relied on different cheat foods, which is why, again, going back to rapidregeneration.com/cheat-foods, I've just figured out better foods to cheat with. I was eating so many corn chips. It was crazy. I was eating probably a huge bag every day or more. And I mean, I would get the non-GMO corn chips, and I would get like low salt or no salt. But I mean, they're deep fat fried, in vegetable oil. I mean, corn is bad already, as being starches and complex sugars and very attracting to candida and hard to digest and acidic. But then you deep fat fry it. I mean, so that was really, I feel like if I could have found a better cheat food, like a crunchy chip or cracker, you know, it really would have been better. It just took me a while to find these different foods and these different tips and tricks. And I would have loved to transition faster and go to more raw more quickly, but I was just going through such a challenging time in my personal life, in my work life, and I didn't have that kind of balance where I could really go after turning up the dial on the raw to get to 100% faster. Now, maybe you don't have to get to 100%, or, you know, you don't want to go all raw, and etc. And so that's okay. You know, don't worry. Don't have some end game in mind. I never had an end game in mind, but it did become clear to me what I should do to completely solve my problems. But just give yourself permission to just step on the gas pedal and get to your destination of where you want to go in terms of your health. Don't worry about the big picture and things like, what are you going to eat for the rest of your life? You don't need to worry about that right now. And, you know, it's okay. You don't have to have strict rules and stuff like that. Just give yourself permission to do whatever it takes to get there. I'm providing this roadmap that's going to help you get there, and I know you can do it. So keep at it. Stay focused. Stay committed. If there's anything I can do to help you, let me know. rapidregeneration.com. You can find me on all of your favorite social media. You know, please follow me. I'll follow you back on social media. I would love to connect with you that way. And stay tuned. There's a lot of, this was good mechanics. I hope you learned a lot on this one. But there's a lot of important other insights and things to watch out for in the upcoming segments. So keep educating yourself. Keep expanding your awareness. And I will see you on the next segment. Bye for now.
For more information, please follow @Rapid Regeneration or visit rapidregeneration.com.